Early one morning, Sir Topham Hatt came to see Thomas, Percy, Toby, and Mavis. He had exciting news. I'm sure the four of you remember when the thin clergyman visited our railway a few months ago.
Oh yes, peeped Percy. I remember he snapped a picture of me as I rode down the rails that night. I believe that was the same night I tricked Thomas into thinking I was a ghost.
Thomas was annoyed. Well, I remembered him taking a picture of a certain green caterpillar with red stripes after he got done crawling out of the hay. Sir Topham Hatt quickly continued his announcement before the two could start arguing. Well, he has decided to write his next book about the Farquhar branch line. The engines cheered. However, that's not all. In order to help advertise the book, I have decided to hold a tour of the branch line in the coming weeks. Thomas, Percy, and Toby, you shall run the tours. The three engines smiled as Sir Topham Hatt walked away. However, Mavis felt left out.
I wish I could be a part of the tours, she sighed.
You can't. You're a quarry diesel. You aren't meant to pull coaches, replied Thomas dismissively. Toby and Percy were both annoyed. Don't worry, Mavis. I'm sure it's just that having four engines run a tour would make it too crowded, comforted Toby. However, Mavis still felt left out. Soon the day of the tour arrived, and the three engines were waiting patiently at Knapford. Thomas pulling Annie and Clarabelle, Toby pulling Henrietta, and Percy pulling two spare coaches. Thomas had been chosen to lead the tour, so he was going to pull the first train of the day. He puffed out of the station proudly and triumphantly. However, as he continued down the line, he felt as if the train was getting heavier and heavier. He rolled weakly into Maithwaite Station before coming to a complete halt. The driver and fireman tried to investigate to see what was wrong, but found nothing. Well, Thomas, we can't see what the issue is, but what we do know is that you're in no condition to pull any kind of train. We better phone Sir Topham Hatt, said the fireman. Sir Topham Hatt was enjoying a nice book in his office when the telephone rang. Hello? What's that? Thomas is unable to pull his train? This is quite the predicament. I'll see what I can do. Already, he was forming a plan. Mavis sighed to herself as she shunted the trucks into place of the quarry. She was thinking of all the fun the others were having while giving the tours. Just then, the foreman ran up to her. Leave those trucks here, Mavis. I just got a call from Sir Topham Hatt. He wants you to head to Maithwaite. I wonder what for, thought Mavis as she headed off. Back at Knapford, Percy was beginning to worry. Thomas still hadn't made it back.
You don't think he's got into an accident, do you?
Don't worry, Percy. I'm sure Thomas is fine. Just then, Thomas came into view, and the two engines stopped being worried and instead began laughing. Thomas had made it back to the station. He wasn't under his own power. Instead, he and his coaches were being pushed by Mavis. He was most annoyed. He grumbled about it for the rest of the day. He did not like it one bit. Whenever the two ran into another engine, they were quick to tease Thomas about his predicament. Even Bertie couldn't help but laugh when he saw him. Thomas was relieved when the tours were finally over. Just as he was about to be shunted back to the sheds, a boy on the platform called out,
Look, there's Thomas.
That's not Thomas. He's being pushed by a diesel. It's probably a dummy model, replied another.
It's certainly a dummy, all right, chuckled Percy.
Well, Mavis, you might not be able to pull coaches, but you can certainly push them, chuckled Toby.
Even when there's a silly tank engine at the front,
added Percy. Mavis chuckled. Thomas chose not to say a thing and pretended to be asleep. He was about to be in for a shock when he woke up. The next morning, when Sir Topham Hatt brought a copy of the book to show the engines, Thomas was absolutely speechless. There, on the front cover, was Mavis.